We're living in a moment where mainstream media in particular seems like all they care about is appeasing their partisan audiences instead of giving the facts. Now, yes, absolutely. On media, on TV media, as well as print media, you have some folks who give you just the straight news without commentary. And then you have people who give a little news and they give a little commentary. We should be able to distinguish between the two. Some people will give you straight up facts, no commentary. Some people are commentators, period. They lay out the news and they give you some commentary. But what is happening right now in this particular moment, especially with the strong influence that social media has, is that we have news networks, particularly mainstream media. And that is not to say that everybody that is on mainstream media is unwilling to tell the truth. Yours truly, I am blessed to be both here at TYT on our independent network, and I am called from time to time to lend my freedom fighting progressive voice to mainstream media. But on whole, the mainstream media networks, they kind of cave to or contour themselves to their audiences versus giving the facts, whether they're just straight up fact news anchors or whether they're commentators that give some of the facts. They definitely carve and cave their stories based on their audiences. And we're gonna give plenty of examples here. So the partisan ghost in the machine, let's put up this headline. David Sirota did an extraordinary job of laying out what is a challenge for us right now, and I mean all of us. The very democracy or the representative democracy really a republic, but here we are. The partisan ghost in the media machine. Media outlets no longer consider government malfeasance newsworthy if reporting on it might offend audiences' partisan loyalties. And the story that he uses as the anchor example to walk us through this point is the blow up, the explosion, the what in the hell happened to Southwest Airlines. Yeah, and it's a very good example because the Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg failed in his duty and his job to regulate and put the hammer down on this industry, even though he was warned way ahead of Mother Nature doing what Mother Nature does. It is of no surprise that we had a winter storm. Is anybody surprised that in December or in January or February and maybe even March that we might have a winter storm? Is anybody surprised by that? I didn't think that you were. And we have more technology than any other generation before us. I think the weather people told us that the storm was coming. But what brewed with Southwest was bigger than Mother Nature. It was also a storm of the folks running that airline caring more about their stakeholders than they cared about the people who had to use the unfriendly skies on those particular days. So we're gonna get into this. Let's use what David Sirota laid out. So he was reflective, a very reflective piece about the state of the media. He used the recent airline debacle to highlight the tribalism, or what I call the partisan death spiral happening within the fourth estate. And the fourth estate is, in fact, the media. The media is supposed to be a nonpartisan arbiter of the facts. Instead, too many media outlets worship at the feet of the two political parties, and they don't want to offend either party. So if you're Fox News, you don't want to offend Republicans, and if you are MSNBC, for example, you don't want to offend Democrats. And so all of this worshiping at the feet of who's a Democrat and who's a Republican causes these news outlets, for the most part, and that's not every single commentator on there, but I'm talking about on the whole, it causes them to not tell the truth when that truth may offend the side that they are supposed to be on. Now, they are not supposed to be on the side of who's Republican, who's Democrat. They ought to be on the side of what is right and what is wrong. But they do all that they can to protect the partisan viewers from the negative facts about their chosen side. So let's take a look at this tweet that David Sirota had up. Right-wing media touted revelations about at Secretary Pete's failure. Liberal media erased any mention of the document showing Buttigieg's negligence. This is a democracy crisis, a media that only reports facts if it flatters partisan audiences. And that is very true. If anybody kind of frolic through Twitter over the last few days, you will see folks weighing in on either side or the other, depending on what side that they're on, taking up for their chosen team. When in this case, this particular example, the people that we should be concerned about are the people who were stranded and their families and the impact that what this Southwest debacle caused, not taking up for the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. He gonna be okay. So let's look at more of what Sirota had to say in his article. But as the great airline meltdown of 2022 illustrated last week, today's media now routinely does the altering by promoting or suppressing facts based on which party and which infanticized audience they serve. That is a problem, not just for air travelers, but also for our entire democracy. You better go ahead and speak that truth, David Sirota, or write that truth. He goes on to review, as up to 1 million travelers were stranded by Southwest Airlines over the holiday season, uncovered documents showing that Democratic state officials and congressional lawmakers had repeatedly begged Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to toughen rules to deter airlines from mistreating their customers. There it is. That is the main premise of this, for not to allow the airlines to mistreat their customers. But all of a sudden, some people were reporting on this, others were not. All right, you know which side reported and which side didn't. And the side that did report on this were using this mainly for political gain and not because they actually cared. David Sirota is actually calling for action. Take a look at this.
Do you think this issue will be sorted in time for the holidays?
I think it's going to get better by the holidays.
I wasn't anticipating a nightmare, but it became a nightmare. It did.
Passengers forced to sleep at airports, luggage scattered from city to city.
Again, your bags will not be here.
4 months before Southwest's mass cancellations, 38 state attorneys general from both political parties sent a joint letter to congressional leaders explicitly calling out Buttigieg's transportation department for failing to respond and provide appropriate recourse for frustrated airline flyers. Buttigieg's agency has continued to do almost nothing to prevent all of this from happening again.
How can travelers have faith in the airline? And to be frank, have faith in your department as a watchdog if these problems keep happening?
Has done and did almost nothing. And this letter from this bipartisan group of attorney generals happened way before the storm. This actually happened over the summer. Yasmin?
Yeah, I like Sirota's use of the word infantilize because I think it's so telling in the way the media treats its audience sometimes. There isn't always a place for nuance, discussion, or debate in the way news is presented these days, and we need that because things aren't always black or white, and politics shouldn't be treated as a team sport. Some anchors and journalists, to their credit, do attempt to break the mold here a bit wherever they can, but at the end of the day, journalism is a job, and these journalists are employees serving a corporation first and serving the public second, which is wrong. What you end up with is really predictable hot takes, and maybe I'm guilty of that too. And you get news stories that are more sensational than factual. I think part of the reason that there's so much confusion and division amongst the American people is because of this. People are confused about basic ideas and events and what actually happened. And a lot of these things are issues that they end up voting on at the ballot. And a big part of the reason why everyone is so confused is that it's actually very difficult now to get an unbiased report of what's actually going on with a situation. It's almost a skill to be able to discern facts within a news story these days. And then it's another skill entirely to analyze those facts and come to your own conclusions. And depending on what news station you're watching, you're walking away with an entirely different set of facts from the next guy. Ultimately, this doesn't serve the public. And I don't want to be too hyperbolic when I say this, but what is the point anymore of watching the news if most of the time it's effectively just serving as a facilitator of government propaganda one way or the other?
There it is. And the fact that so many Americans now, because people have picked literally a side on this, and that they are unwilling to listen to the so-called other side, it does not allow for robust dialogue, nor does it allow for critical thinking. And that really is what is missing in this whole situation. In Sorota's call for action. Let's put this up. He said, tell Congress and Buttigieg to stop airline abuse. And this is important. There's still something that needs to be done. Southwest needs to be held accountable. The whole industry needs to have a check on it so that something like this can never, ever happen again. And so if you want to get involved, this is a way that you can get involved and really push for Congress to take action, not just against Southwest, but this is for the people and every other airline too. We need to do that.